Jeff King of International Christian Concern is our guest, going through some of the top persecutors of the year. Not a very nice list to go through as we reflect back on 2023, Jeff, but I think very important. And okay, I'm remembering something your good friend, our good friend, Karen Ellis will often say. They persevered. And you are in that same boat where you're looking at the perseverance of not the saints as in some theological concept, but actually seeing them persevere under great difficulty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And go ahead, Paul. Did you have another part of that?
Well, no. I was just thinking, because time is limited, we wanted to talk about India.
Yes, that sounds great. Yeah, and that is a great point with the perseverance of the saints in India. In India, most Christians don't know, India is led by a gentleman, Prime Minister Modi. He is a radical Hindu. His political party, the BJP, these are radical Hindus. These are Brahmins. If you think of the hierarchical system of Hinduism, they sit at the very top of the heap. And the masses, the untouchables, to use an old term, are coming to Christ. And they know this, and it really upsets the order. And they are absolutely intent on strangling Christianity. Now, here's the trick, though. Modi is a very smart politician, and he's a world politician, so he keeps his mouth shut. You won't hear him say anything direct about Christianity. His job is to say nothing. Attack after attack after attack, he says nothing. And his leaders in the political party and the state, leaders, they will spew all kinds of anti-Christian hatred and urge their followers to attack Christians. Really, really nasty stuff. It's really surprising when you read the language. But so they are intent on, and they're working a number of strategies to strangle the church. It's not going to work, and it's gonna create more Christians. He doesn't get it yet because he's like most dictators. But that's kind of the quick story in India.
Okay, and then actually one of the big people in India, you have it on your individuals. You're going to have to help me with the pronunciation, Yogi.
Oh, man, don't catch me this early in the morning trying to do that. It's a BJP leader, and he's the leader of one of the biggest states, maybe even the biggest, but he's one of those gentlemen I mentioned. So he's a state leader in the BJP. So, he's like a Republican or a Democrat leader, but the leader of a state, in terms of the United States. Mm-hmm. And so he's out there spewing hatred and urging, basically his followers and winking at him, saying, basically, nothing's going to happen. You can attack the Christians. And so that's what happens. So the followers go out and they interrupt church service. They go in and beat followers. They beat the pastor. I can show you these videos. You'd be amazed. And they're just, the Christians are getting smacked and beaten with sticks, literally broken. And then the police come in and Paul, I'm going to give you one guess. Who gets arrested typically?
Yeah. The ones being beaten, the Christians.
Strange, isn't it?
Amazing how it works.
It's amazing how that works. It doesn't seem like justice to me. But that's kind of the thumbnail sketch of India.
Okay, let's start moving to the Middle East, because I know our focus has been a lot on that in recent weeks since the early part of October. And okay, we think about Hamas, and then there's Hezbollah, which oftentimes are at the behest. They work as extensions of Iran, which is another one of the countries on your top list. Talk about that.
Yeah. I'm trying to think which angle to take, because I always want to talk about Iran. It's such a fascinating story. But in the Middle East, I think what's forgotten is that there's still Christians left in Gaza. And there's about 800 Christians left in Gaza, and they're suffering like everybody else. And when we talk about things, when we talk about this situation, I just usually say everybody's hair is on fire politically. There's no more discourse anymore. There's no more polite conversation. So anything I say it's not a political statement. I look at these things through spiritual eyes, and I see this intractable situation between Hamas and Israel, and I get both of their perspectives. And yet, what we are forgetting is those believers that are on the ground. And of course, they're suffering, it's like, and suffering at a terrible degree. And so again, no political statement, but they're crying out. And you think about what happens when you go through deep, deep suffering. There's a couple things, but, right now they're crying out and they're wondering, some of them are wondering, where's the Lord in all this? And that's what happens when we go into deep suffering. It's just a painful thing. And the Lord, actually, I write about it a lot. The Lord has a process in all this and what he's trying to do. But in the meantime, we just need to pray for these guys and wrap our arms around them in love and say, we are here. We hear you. We love you. We know your pain. That's a tremendous encouragement for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have about a minute left, Jeff, and I want you to, this was just recently posted on persecution.org, which, by the way, if you're wondering how to get this report we've been talking about, go to persecution.org and you can download the report from there. But there's also the story, since we're looking at the Middle East, it's a story called A Mother's Faith, a story about Sarah. We have about a minute. Can you share that story?
Yeah, well, Sarah is one of those believers in the Middle East, and I think I'm trying to think if she has lost some of her children. And you know what, honestly, I better not try too hard. I think I'm going to mess it up. So I think I gave the broad strokes on Gaza, and what's going on with the believers there. But I know her heart is breaking, and she, for me, really expresses that grief of the Christian that is in this situation. And just is just a reminder to pray for these brothers and sisters.
Definitely, definitely. Well, Jeff, thanks again for joining us here on Mornings with Carmen. I do want to point people to your book as well, not only persecution.org, but you have a book out called Islam Uncensored. 14 leaders, liberal, conservatives, Muslim, Jews, atheists, Christians, and a former CIA director reveal what the government and media won't tell you about Islam. And it's an eye-opening read. So I don't know if that's a good Christmas read, since you have time off. But if you're interested in it, there you go. You have a link at your website at Christian. Do you have a link on your website about that book?
You know what? There's actually another one, Last Words of the Martyrs. But actually, if people just email me, you can email me at jeff@persecution.org if you'd like a free copy of Last Words of the Martyrs. And I've got a new devotional that's coming out in just about 2 months.
Okay. That sounds good. Thanks a lot, Jeff. And you have a Merry Christmas.
Bless you, brother.
All right.